etc. I would like to ask, in terms of, are they, like, what are the gaps that you have seen that students have within, like, the academic and also then entering into industry? So like, what should a student focus on, and what's one thing that a student should start doing more to get ready and like to be industry ready? So I'm posing the question to everyone, each of the panelists, and then we could just see from there.
Can I go ahead and can I take it? Can I start? So the landscape is changing, right? In a sense that you have a lot of entry-level roles that are being taken out of the picture due to AI and automation. And when you look at history, there have been many job revolutions. There was the first industrial revolution, where a lot of physical labor was now replaced by machines. And then you had the second industrial revolution, whereby electricity was introduced into the picture. And then again, you had the green revolution, where we started using fertilizers and mechanical irrigation. So, and then we had computers again, starting in 1970, and a lot of manual jobs were then taken away. So each revolution has proved that in as much as you have jobs that are taken away and are displaced, you have new jobs that are put into the picture, new opportunities that are put into the picture. And so there'll be a disturbance, right? I think the World WEF has established that there's about 92 million jobs that are going to be taken away, but also 178 million jobs that are going to be introduced into the picture. So there's going to be a disturbance of entry-level jobs, and then there's going to be new opportunities that are brought into the picture. So the idea is now to to adapt, is try to position yourself in a way that you're able to tap into the new opportunities that are going to come into the picture. What is being established now is a lot of systems design, a lot of systems thinking, whereby you need to be able to integrate different disciplines in order to solve a problem. And that's idea. That's attending a lot of conferences. I've been hearing that one thing: systems design, systems thinking. So the ability to be able to integrate different faculties, maybe integrate different disciplines to solve a problem, gives you a unique lens that gives you a specific positioning that enables you to differentiate yourself when it comes to solving problems. So the key idea is that you can't think in a silo. You can't think in silos. Think in just computer science. That's why collaboration is very important, whereby you now start to develop other skills and collaborate with other scientists to have a unique lens. So that's it from my part, in the sense that computer science students, they need to develop systems thinking to solve problems. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that insight. I think we do agree that
So thank you so much, Vince, for that. I'm glad you mentioned the World Economic Forum Future of Work report, in your speech. So I actually have it with me here. I was trying to share it a bit so that we speak to context, right? So if you look at this report, so it shows actually the jobs and the skills that will be relevant, in the near future. I made use of the 2025 vision. So that's big data specialists, fintech engineers, AI engineer, AI and machine learning specialists, including cybersecurity, right? So you realize that if you're trying to build a career right now without knowing these statistics, or having taken a look of these statistics, you might find yourself that you're trying to create, to launch your career with skills that are irrelevant. Mostly, for example, traditional computer science. You see that those skills are relevant to give you a foundation, but given the current job landscape, you can barely get a job using those skills. So you need to go beyond also even what you are taught in the classroom, because you realize that for some of who have graduated already, let's say this year or last year, you can barely pinpoint the skills that you have that are employable on the job market. So it means you need to also go beyond the classroom. You know, that's the adapting that Vince also mentioned about. So there are skills that are relevant to the employers. For example, these soft skills beyond your technical skills, as mentioned by Vince. So you also need to develop, soft skills that are relevant, that makes you an asset in your role. The likes of problem-solving skills, analytical skills, exceptional leadership skills, people management, collaboration, multicultural communication, because you realize that you're gonna possibly be part of an international team that has people from, 10, 15 different countries. So you need to be, culture sensitive in whatever that you do in doing your job. You need to be humble, and in terms of professionalism, you need to be on point. Self-management, you can't be someone where your manager is constantly telling you what to do and when to do it. You need to be, someone who is able to, step up, take initiative, and be someone who is easy with technology. Don't just be fixed to one technology and that's all. Just be someone who is comfortable with switching from one to another. Be able to collaborate with others. You can't work alone. Work with others, but also be able to work with others. And most importantly, and I repeat, this one is most important, be intellectually curious. That involves, that has to do with, continuous learning and improvement. You can't come a year down the line, you haven't, improved in terms of your skills or learn something new. Make sure that you identify courses. These days, you can pretty well do certifications for free. Identify certifications that you can do, out there. Take on these certifications, as soon as you get one, reach out to your manager. Hey, boss, I've gotten this new certification to my portfolio. This is what I learned from this certification. This is what I can do. Build a portfolio based on that experience that you've gotten from that certification. So you need to be someone who is curious. It shows that you are dedicated to continuous learning, continuous improvement, because the job market needs people who can adapt and continuously develop themselves. So this is it for me. Over.
Thank you so much, Mr. Robert, for that detail. And you were so prepared that you even presented. So grateful for that. I think I'd also then just pose the same question to Prof. Sade. Maybe from an academic standpoint, how do you think that a student, or how should the computer science curricula be developed so that it can keep up with the pace of AI and cybersecurity?
All right, thank you very much. And I think the previous speakers have spoken very well. But I also want to emphasize that, the basics of science does not really change. What happens over time is, as we see new evidence and new things evolve, we need to then reflect and apply an adaptive mindset to solve the problems. So like the law of thermodynamics and stuff like that you learn in science, they're still there. But as we evolve, as new evidence, come to be, then we need to learn to be more adaptive. And that's why, apart from the hard skills that we get from the classroom, you come to UWC, you apply for a degree, and you go to the classes, lectures, and you get your degree. Beyond that, what are the other things you're doing whilst you're in the system? And that's why it's very important to also develop your soft skills and being able to be, sort of independent and have a growth mindset will actually take you places. It helps you to have that mindset that you can always get better. And this is also one of the things I think the UWC graduates attributes emphasize. If you're not familiar with it, you can just check I think one of the things that the UWC graduate attributes emphasizes lifelong learning, meaning you don't stop learning. You can't just end everything within the four walls of the classroom. You're supposed to go back, reflect, and dig deeper. And that's how you can actually, place yourself above the traditional classroom setting. And beyond what you do in the classroom, how do you apply to, problem solving? So, and that's why we also encourage, problem-based learning and integrated industry experience as well. And things like internships can help students, bridge that gap between what they have learned in the classroom and how they can solve real life problems. So I think it's very important to have a growth mindset. Do not just be satisfied with whatever you get from the classroom. You can go back, do your homework and learn more, because you can never always get everything from the classroom, because the time is limited and the courses are structured in a particular way, and there are a lot of constraints, sometimes. So, but as individuals, we can learn to develop ourselves. Like, what else do I do in my, spare time? How can I improve on my coding skills? These are basic skills you also need to, you need this kind of skills to thrive in the industry. So how can you get better? You can look up, industry challenges and try to solve, problems. So having a growth mindset, it's very important. And those soft skills that were highlighted are also very important. So I would say kudos to all of you students that are already involved in, internships, hackathons and things like that, because it helps you grow. It helps you bridge those gaps. And I think every time as a department, as a university, we also constantly review the curriculum and see how we can make it better. So it's always an ongoing effort. It's not like the curriculum is there and is permanent or static. There's continuous, reflection and changes being made to the curriculum. Because I know several years ago, we were not teaching machine learning at third year level, but now we teach machine learning because it has become one of the very important tools to solving real world problems. So I think from an academic point of view, we need to understand that we get the foundation from the classroom, and then we need to learn to build on this foundation through several other means. Like I said, engaging with industries and looking for, you can also seek to get a mentor, an industry mentor. As a student, you can reach out. There are people on LinkedIn that might align with your area of interest. So it helps. It helps you to channel your career path and see how to get better and improve on whatever skills you might be lacking. But I think having a growth mindset and willingness to learn, because it's never always going to be easy, but if you have a positive mindset, knowing fully well that whatever it is you have now, whatever skills you have now can get better, I think that would help a lot. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. I really do like that you emphasize that the foundation must be where we first start, and then we can build up from that. So I really love that point. I see that there are a few hands which are up currently. We will have a part of the session where we will take questions. So that's possible. But I do see that one of the hands is up from our panelists. So I think he can just speak and then we will continue the conversation.
Getting yourself prepared for the job market, the skills that you get from the class, is rightly put by the professor. They are really relevant and they are foundational. And you need to build on that for you to be able to, to develop the skills that are relevant on the job market, skills that will get you, help you get the job done. Right. So well done, Prof, for that, and thank you for clarifying that. So just building up on what Prof said, you in terms of building your skills. So you realize that there are so many ways to build your skills. Sorry, my slide is mostly focused on AI side of things, not necessarily cybersecurity, but it's something that is also transferable. So in terms of certifications, you need to be able to know what do you want to do. Do you want to be a machine learning engineer? Do you want to be a cybersecurity analyst? Right. So after identifying and knowing your career path that you want to follow, the next thing is to say, okay, for me to be able to be an AI engineer, what certifications do I need? What skills do I need, so that you know how to develop those skills? So you know that I need my ML ops, skills. I need to be able to actually build a machine learning model, train a machine learning model, testing it and stuff. And that will help you identify the certifications that you need to do that are relevant in terms of building those skills that you need. After that, certifications give you also more, just like what you learn in class. They give you more fundamentals as well, or the foundation where you also need to build upon. So after the certification has exposed you to the skills that to the tools that are being used in the industry, the platforms being used, you need to now start building on a skill, right? So that's now building your portfolio. What do you do? Look for real world problems that you can actually get to solve. So to start with, you might not be able to find something that is, get to a point where you can approach a company, but you can go to platforms like the Cindy platform, Cargo, if you're into AI and machine learning, right? You realize that the data sets that you find in there is actually a real-world data set, especially it's a real-world data set that has been provided by a company that you probably know about a problem that they are facing internally. So take that data set. See, the problem statement is already defined. What you need to deliver on is already defined. The data set is there. All you need to do is understand the problem statement, then start solving. And in that journey, don't go solo, because you realize that at some point you just lose the motivation and you just leave it. Look for someone to work with, teams to join, so that you collaborate, right? And as you do that, you're actually building on these real, because as I said, it's a real world problem that has been defined with a real world data set. You are actually solving a real world problem. So you realize that if you start with the hackathons, with the time going on, being able to see how a problem is defined, how a data set is clean and stuff, you get to a point where you are even able to just look for a data set without a problem being defined. Then you start from scratch, defining the problem that data set can solve. Then you do all the necessary steps, training your model all the way to the end. So you realize that at the end, you develop the end-to-end skills from identifying a problem, starting to clean your data set, build the machine learning model, evaluate it, test it, and all that. At the same time, also developing those soft skills that I mentioned earlier, the likes of collaboration and teamwork, through solving these problems in teams. So at the end, you realize that traditionally it was all about putting your code on GitHub and stuff. But now you need to go beyond putting your code on GitHub, because remember, mostly the people who have a first look on your project are not going to be your manager or a technical person. Mostly it's the HR team. So make sure that HR team, most of them would not understand your code that is on GitHub. They'll see there's a link to GitHub, they probably click it, but then it's not enough. So if you get to a point where after building your whatever model, you put your code on GitHub, try to to create a project like a user-friendly project that can be accessed through a graphic user interface that is hosting that. There are so many platforms you can host that project that you have done with a graphic user interface. So if you are predicting, let's say, rainfall, right, try to build a simple graphic user interface from like Streamlit, Gradio, and many other front-end tools that are very easy. Then host that platform so that if someone clicks, they know it's a rainfall prediction. They actually get to be redirected to a graphic user interface where they actually try out the tool and see how it works. That way you realize that if you create a portfolio of those kind of projects, like 3 or 4 of them, who would want to employ you? For example, now an HR is looking for someone to hire. It's 3, 4, or 5 of them. Do you really, all of you are recent graduates, you graduated this year, but do you really think all of you will have that kind of a portfolio? Definitely, most likely it will be you only or the other two. So that you've already eliminated the other three during the shortlisting. So now going to the interview table, it's just now a matter of you proving the skills that you listed that you have. So this is basically it for me. Over.
Thank you so much, Mr. Robert. I think we really got to understand how we could stand out as well in industry, and also to be able to just use the skills that we already have to be able to stand out in industry, right? So I think I have a question now for Mr. Vince. You were speaking up, Mr. Robert was speaking more about the AI aspect, and we are still going to talk about AI. We love AI. But I have a question for Mr. Vince, that from a systems perspective, right? How is AI actually changing the way that cybersecurity systems are designed? So that's just my question for Mr. Vince.
Thank you so much, Charity. I also had a presentation prepared, so I was a bit surprised when I don't know if I can still do it, or it's a 5-minute presentation.
Okay, I will allow you to do it. Yes, please.
But to start off with your question, a lot of entry-level roles are being taken out of the picture. For example, your SOC, like, in your security operations center, you've got level 1, 2, 3, and so forth. And so you see a lot of the level 1 positions being taken out of the picture, and a lot of augmentation as well, since they're pushing for the idea that AI needs to not necessarily take away the jobs, especially in the higher positions, but just augment and adjust the working hours, so to speak. But yeah, starting with that question, it's more of the basic roles are being eliminated in so that you have more of the higher positions that are being more established, and it creates a bit of a bottleneck where you see that in the future a lot of companies are going to be in trouble because they won't have experienced workers who are going to be replacing the now seniors when it comes to their roles. So it's creating a bit of a bottleneck. But I'm not sure if you can see my presentation.
Yes,
Yes.
we're able to see it.
So from the system science perspective, I wanted to give a background into our context, into our South African context, in the sense that what you're seeing there is the township of Alexandra in the foreground, and you're seeing Sandton in the background. And there's an argument that says that you can't undo 350 years of economic exclusion in just 32 years, right? But that argument is right. But there's another argument that explains that over the past after 1994, the South African economy was growing at a good rate, and then after 2008, the financial crisis took place, and we weren't growing at such a great rate. And this is because of things like state capture and the rand manipulation. And so you have 15 years of institutional friction that's actively choking out the velocity of capital into productive infrastructure. And so there is a picture of Rocco Mamas in Mall of Africa, where they took out about 5 positions for waitress jobs, and over 1,000 reports say over 1,000 people showed up just for those 5 positions. And so South Africa requires an injection of more than $250 billion just to stabilize the job market. And in our higher education, we have a problem of supervisory deceleration, whereby we've seen a lot of enrollments of students into higher education, into universities, than there are academic staff. And we don't have enough PhDs in our academic staff. So you find out that the future of work is being architected by a pool of very strict staff. And that's why you find out that master's and PhD degrees take up to 4 or 7 years. whereas the minimum is supposed to be 2. And so there's that issue of, importing models without context. It creates more problems than it does solutions, right? So in AI, you find out that a lot of AI credit algorithms, what they do is that they punish entire postal codes with high interest rates, and sometimes just excluding people, financially excluding people, and in the townships, reinforcing the previous problems of apartheid. And Microsoft also explained that they took out a paper recently explaining that large language models, what they do is that they corrupt your documents after repeated edits. And so we have that verifiability crisis, where that if you don't have a way to verify data, AI can manipulate your entire system. And that's why you saw, made up, when they took out, our government took out that paper, they were fictitious references. And so you find out that there's a need for our own telemetry, for local township telemetry. You find out that the local township, it surpasses the township economy, it surpasses the national agriculture in terms of GDP. And the township economy employs also more people than the mining sector. And so, true intelligence is actually owning the telemetry of our own markets, where we secure the future of our work by building AI and security operations centers that understand the South African structural baseline, and ensuring that our growth is designed for us, by us. And so there's an opportunity that arises, something called trust as a service, that we're also doing at Nexus Node, as the idea that it replaces institutional trust with mathematical certainty, by anchoring digital data into immutable, cryptographically verifiable records. And so this has the ability to unlock a lot of immense institutional investment for the townships, for the township economy. And the idea here, why we need to unlock this investment, is that building in South Africa is very expensive. That's why you have a lot of factories closing down. And Wamkele Mene explained that the cost of debt for some African countries can be up to 20 times more than developed nations such as Germany and Europe. And so we're having a problem with the idea that a lot of international companies are taking their factories overseas, because building in South Africa is expensive. That cost of capital, it affects everyone. You want to build a data center, you have to take into account that cost of capital. You want to build some lab for chemists and create jobs. It's a cost of capital. And so by tapping into the township economy, we're able to bring down the cost of capital, so that building in South Africa becomes cheaper. And we need to come up with these ways of creating these digital highways, so that we can cater for the unbanked and the underbanked. And once you cater for those people, then we're able to find ways to properly bring down the cost of capital and transform our township economy, and hence, the face of poverty no longer becomes black. And so that's the idea that we were talking about, the idea that we need to become pseudo CTOs, whereby we apply systems thinking into specific into problems, so that we don't just we find ways of turning code into things that actually boost the economy. And so that's it from my side. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that lovely presentation. I think it did give such a great background on like our current economy, and just also gave opportunity as well. I think as the listeners, we were thinking of maybe opportunities that can arise, or where we can fit in what is actually happening. So yes, I would say that we are actually kind of running out of time now. I would like to give over to the floor floor for those who do have questions. I think the conversation has been great so far, and I think I did have more questions to ask, but let's give the floor. They do seem like they are very eager to ask and, understand certain things from what you have presented and what you have shared. So, anyone with a question, they can just raise their hand or speak. I think Mpumi will also just be monitoring questions that were sent on the chat as well. Mpumi, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm not sure if you have questions. I think everybody's just a bit mind blown at such great information that's been shared. Yeah, I don't think we have questions currently.
Okay. Okay, if that is the case, maybe I'll also just ask a last question. Okay, yes, you can go ahead, Twenga.
Okay. Thank you so much for that presentation. It was very insightful because I'm someone who's still a first year student, so I'm still finding out a lot about, current evolving technology. But my question is, what would you say is a skill to gain that is the most relevant, especially highlighting the last I forgot your name. Wait, sorry. Mr. I think Ben or Mr. Vince, sorry. Mr. Vince. So especially highlighting on his point, what would you say is most valuable or like current skill to gain outside of the classroom?
You said your name is Gwenga, right?
Yes, my name is Dwenga.
And the question is, what are the important skills to gain outside of the classroom?
Yes.
I think that's touching on what Mr. Roberts and the professor was saying, that you need those soft skills. Especially now in this day and age, in order for you to stand out, you also need to be sort of like a content creator, and you need to be in people's faces. It creates familiarity, and there's a if you gain if you there's a people need to be educated, so to speak. There are a lot of people who are not so technical. So if you can create content that turns, complex information into simple stuff, and you put that on TikTok and you put that on LinkedIn, that skill of becoming a content creator, it's annoying. It's annoying, but it's a skill that will serve you quite well. So if you can find a way to Mr. Robert also explained that he has a YouTube channel, and you have to, in order for you to give yourself an edge, you build familiarity, so that when you apply for jobs, they can also check out your feed, and they'll see that you have a base, and you know exactly what you're talking about. So creating content will really do a lot for you, and that's another skill that you can really get outside the classroom.
Okay, thank you. It's funny that you're cringing to it because I don't know, young students, we enjoy making content, we enjoy that type of thing. So using that to my advantage by, spreading more information about it, I'd love to. But yeah, thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you for the question. There's also another question here saying, I think this will be the last question, and then we will continue with the program. What are the main cybersecurity risks students should be aware of when using AI platforms? And what practical steps can universities take to help students recognize risks such as data exposure, phishing, identity misuse, and unsafe sharing of information?
Well, we have a problem with the idea that our data is not our own. We need more sovereignty, especially in South Africa. And so we need, first of all, more innovators who are able to build their own, chatbots and stuff, so that we can own our own data. And the risk involved, there's a reel that I saw recently on Instagram where they were showing people like in a room, and let's say you're interacting with the chatbot and you're telling it your secrets. You're telling it your business ideas, you're telling it everything. And so in the background it's people selling that data to companies, bidding for that data. And so the idea that your data is being used, that's one of the risks, that your data is being used. And now I think OpenAI is now talking about the idea of personalized advertising. So that's one of those risks whereby now things are going to be tailored specifically to you. You might view that as a nice thing, or it's targeted advertising whereby they'll do specific advertising just to take money out of your pocket, creates more problems than it looks pretty. So when it comes to phishing, identity and misuse, sheesh, and unsafe sharing of information, yeah. I think that's from the unsafe sharing of information. That's why I can say that you need to be very careful with what you share. I think we're all guilty to some extent of sharing too much with GBT, whether it's work stuff or personal stuff. But there's that risk when it comes to that your data can be used by other people or by other companies. Yeah, so that's the best way I can answer that question.
I think just to chip in quickly, so looking at the question and looking at what UWC has or have been doing, I would say, of course, creating awareness is very critical, letting people know the level of exposure their data can be, exposed to. And apart from that, I think UWC as an institution has implemented certain, I think, protocols and not allowing certain AI tools to be integrated into their own systems. For example, on our Gmail, I know that we have certain AI policies and specific maybe bots that we can use, and the ones that the university actually recommends. So I think creating that level of awareness and taking that extra step to make sure that only verifiable tools can be used within the organization is also one of the means that I know that UWC has been implementing. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Unfortunately, time is not on our side. I would have loved to, continue the conversation. That's been so great. It's been so lovely. Thank you so much.